What is up, everyone? It is Diecastbuffet here again. Guys, we have a 2002 Jeff Gordon Richmond paint scheme. This is the Looney Tunes car from Richmond in 2002, and there's a really cool story about this paint scheme. So if you're into the NASCAR history, make sure to stay tuned. Let's go ahead and check out this diecast. All right, fellas, got the rotating base out of the studio, and let's take a gander at this diecast. So this was a paint scheme that was used for the 2002 Looney Tunes rematch. For the newer fan out there, and this is going to make me feel really old, but in 2001 and 2002, they had a massive promotion with Looney Tunes. They were trying to get a lot of good promotion because they had a Looney Tunes movie coming up, I think in 2003 or 2004. What better way to promote a movie that's going to have Jeff Gordon in it than get a whole bunch of the Chevrolet drivers to run Looney Tunes paint schemes? They would all run little whimsical paint schemes with different Looney Tunes characters, and it's like the most nostalgic thing of my childhood. I love it, right? Well, anyways, this particular paint scheme has a lot of history to it, and we'll be talking about that as we go here. I just want to briefly touch on the packaging. This thing is literally in almost perfect condition, the card back. And you might be thinking, why are you going to open it up? Why are you going to do that? Look, this car is very overproduced. Overproduced these things till the cows come home. I'm not kidding you. So I don't feel bad opening these up. I will be honest with you. There's plenty of them out there. This was a massive movie deal, massive promotion deal. They produced a megalodon of these. Arguably the most overproduced diecast of the early 2000s is the Looney Tunes ones. So anyways, you got your little, this is actually a sticker here. This is not a magnet or a plastic piece. That's actually a sticker, which is pretty cool. You have the back panel of the 2002 winner circles. And we're going to go ahead and gently open this car up, and we'll talk more about that history. So let's go ahead and open it up. Alrighty, folks, brand new diecast here in the studio. And what a awesome looking paint scheme we have here. It only had to wait about 23 years, and the diecast naturally is open. But what made this car so interesting is, in practice, I think it was, at the Richmond race in 2002, the car crashed. They crashed the Looney Tunes car, and they didn't have a backup or something like that, or the backup wasn't wrapped. Go to the front of the car, you have the Bugs Bunny dude having a jolly good time. Got Dupont, Looney Tunes rematch right there. And if you're wondering who won this race, it was, I believe, Matt Kenseth, which was not one of the Looney Tunes drivers, as obviously he wasn't a Chevrolet driver. And Chevrolet had an interesting sponsorship at Richmond for many years. You know, they had the Looney Tunes joint, and then they would have the Chevy Rock and Roll 400, which would kick off, I think, in 2003. And every year they had a bunch of the Chevy drivers that would have music groups featured on their paint schemes. Kevin Harvick, Dale Earnhardt Jr. They even had some of the Hendrick cars like, what's his face, Brian Vickers. They would have different groups on there. I think even Michael Waltrip ran one or two. It was just a really cool promotion the fall Richmond race would do back in those years. Got Moog, Clevite, Comp, Edelbrox, Union 76, not Sunoco. Monte Carlo, what an awesome looking paint scheme, man. I love the whimsical paint schemes. Every once in a while, I think they're really cool to see on track. You got the best Pepsi logo ever. You got GMAC right there. You got DuPont, Fritos, Lowe's. That's something people forget, that Lowe's was actually on Jeff Gordon's car because Jeff Gordon actually owned Jimmy Johnson's car. People forget that, but every time Jimmy Johnson was winning, Jeff Gordon was a part owner of it. A lot of people forget that interesting portion of NASCAR lore. Got your Jeff Gordon signature there, B Post decal, Quaker State. Get the Amero program there. Get your contingency panel. Tons of sponsors on that car, man. Just beautiful. Then you have the Goodyear decal, which I always thought this was interesting. The Goodyear logo sometimes would kind of have like a crest like they have nowadays. Every single paint scheme, like in the next gen era, which, let me grab a diecast that was produced 22 years later. That kind of Goodyear logo. But back in the 2000s and years before, some of the cars would run a flat Goodyear logo. I have no earthly idea what was the story behind it. This right here is one of the most nostalgic images you'll probably ever see if you grew up in the 2000s. the back panel of this car. You want to know why? Because this paint scheme was featured on NASCAR Thunder 2003. And if you're racing the car, this is exactly what you saw. Bugs Bunny, the green backing of the car, and the light blue. And I remember this paint scheme very much from that game. That's my all-time favorite NASCAR game. And this paint scheme render, I think, is a little bit off to the real car. But they used, I think, verbatim the same diecast render for the video game. This was also a diecast that was produced probably months and months ahead of the NASCAR race at Richmond. So naturally, if there's any changes, it would end up being that way. Like Mike Skinner's car, the number 4 Kodak machine, that paint scheme had a pretty good amount of changes. Like I think the real car actually had red wheels on it, believe it or not. And the diecast obviously doesn't. When you have the big movie production promotions and stuff, they usually get their NASCAR liveries out way ahead. That's traditionally how it was back in those years. Got Quaker State Dupont 24 for the right side of the diecast. And what was cool about a lot of these Looney Tunes cars is the artwork was different on both sides of the paint scheme. So look at the side panel there, and then you kind of look from the other side, and you have a completely different caricature or artwork of the character there. I love that. That is just so cool, man. And like the Looney Tunes, what's his face? Jimmy Johnson, he had a great looking Looney Tunes car. Terry Labonte, oh my goodness. Mike Skinner, as mentioned. One of them I think is a very, very quietly really good one is Robbie Gordon's 2002 one. I don't know why, but I love that paint scheme, man. It's just so cool. I love the Looney Tunes cars. And the beautiful thing about it is they're overproduced, right? You could literally get all of them, and they're very easy to get. The 124 scale, 164 scale, even the elite ones are pretty easy to get. So that's the beautiful thing about it. When these were brand new, could you imagine going to your retail stores trying to pick them up back in NASCAR's prime where they were second to the NFL in ratings? Good luck. Go top, the diecast got the number 24 once again. And then on the deck lid, well, you guessed it, DuPonts. And Tyvek, I have no idea what the different DuPont things are. Anyways, what a fantastic looking diecast here, fellas. Awesome stuff. I'm going to take a quick look at the sticker here. And just look how cool this artwork is, man. This was printed 22, 23 years ago, fellas. And look how shiny it is. Granted, it's been sealed in a card back, but this, stickers or paper, they're designed to be used, and they're pretty much a disposable thing. They don't last. The fact that this thing has lasted this long and hasn't yellowed. This is the back panel of it. It says intended for glass surfaces only. This thing has not yellowed at all. Amazing quality. Fantastic. And you don't even have to use this as a sticker. You could just put this like in your racetrack dioramas. You could just have all kinds of cool stuff with it. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Richmond International Raceway. Awesome. And one last thing on Richmond from those years. It was interesting. Both races were sponsored by GM, I think, because they had the Pontiac Excitement 400 for so many years, which was the spring race. This was the fall race, which was the Chevy Monte Carlo 400. And for those who don't know, Pontiac and Chevrolet are both GM brands. So Chevy had both of them. Ford had the Finale, which was at Homestead. Dodge had the Las Vegas race and the spring Darlington race. So back in those years, all of the manufacturers, they had their own, sponsored event, which was pretty cool. And I think the fall Charlotte race was the UAW GM Quality 500 or something like that. So you might add that one, another one to the fold. And then eventually Ford would get the fall Talladega race sponsorship. So it's really interesting back then how things were. Thank y'all for watching the video. Have a blessed one. Diecastbuffet, signing off.